fellow Americans. Welcome to the scene. Today, we will be talking politics with David Norlin and James Blackwell. Also, we have some authors, Dana Bowman and Kristen Stonewall. I am not a crook, but the scene is fantastic, and it's coming right next. Hey, welcome to the scene, everybody. Usual suspects here. You might notice something a little kind of coordinated, like an email went out or what kind of dress to wear. Charles and I weren't on that email distro.
Yes, you were.
Well, you didn't say, I got a blue dress. You didn't tell me to wear my blue dress. I could have been the devil in the blue dress.
It was the most important question on the email was, what are you wearing today, Shawna? And I will wear exactly the same thing.
But there was no reply.
Yeah, I didn't see
I wasn't in on the reply.
I just got the reply.
Yes.
I just got the reply.
Because I
Perfect.
figured, you know, the guys don't really care, nor do they want to know.
Well, this time I kind of did. I think if all four of us would have came out in the blue dress, that would have been
It would have been hilarious.
That would have been spectacular.
Yeah, it would have.
You meant three.
Oh, three.
You don't have.
would've had to go
I
with
got
the
two.
blue
You
band.
could have borrowed mine.
I would have had to go with the blue pants.
Did I say blue dress, Christy?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
There you
I thought it
go.
was more of a green blue,
Yeah, uh-huh.
but I thought I'll keep it neutral.
That's okay.
We were keeping
You
it
look
conservative.
fantastic.
Keeping it conservative.
Keeping it conservative.
Well, speaking of conservative, oh boy, what's happening in Kentucky?
There's some things.
Miss Kim Davis, she's ruling that state, isn't she?
She is. I think she's kind of got everybody wrapped around her little finger because everybody's afraid to push things too far and maybe cause another issue upon whatever all the other issues are. So,
For those who don't know, Kim Davis is not issuing marriage licenses to gay couples
Right.
in Kentucky, just based on her Christian beliefs.
And now she's doctoring these licenses that were issued when she was locked up in the pokey.
She's saying,
Trying to make them
since her signature
not
aren't on the
valid.
licenses, that
They're
they
not
are
valid.
valid.
Okay.
Right.
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 But
So
now, and this is where I come in, is now we're going to say she's all wrong, but she should have the same freedom of speech, and I think we got into this conversation once before, where she should have the same freedom as anybody else. But now we're saying, no, she shouldn't have that same freedom.
But here's the key. Where does her freedom to have her belief system, and all of us have belief systems, everybody does. But if I have a job, let's say I work at Dillon's, and let's say I'm a Muslim, which I'm not. I want to just say that out there. I'm not. Well, because people get all confused, you know. And I decide that, you know what, I'm not going to sell bacon. Anybody that comes through my line with some bacon or ham hocks or neck bones, I'm not going to check you out.
And you don't have to.
So, but
You're
we
free
can't
not-
go there. But
No,
we
you're
can't
free
go
not.
there.
Yeah, you're
We
free
can't go
not
there.
to do it.
But
The only
you-
thing you do, the only thing they do is they fire you.
right.
I can't have
Why
that job,
hasn't
right?
she been fired?
I can't have that job or I got to get fired, right?
Right,
I
because
have to have
there
a
are
job or I
things
can't do
that when you sign up for that job, you make obligations to that position or whatever.
Right, and
Okay,
that rule
so-
wasn't in there when she signed up for that job. The rule that is now in place was not there.
well,
What do
and
you
there are
mean,
other
though?
deputies
And so
there.
when you went in there with the bacon thing, you know that's already in place there.
Well, yeah.
But I'm saying that rule was not in place.
But there are deputies there who can sign off on the gay marriage license.
Wait, tell
No,
me.
let-
tell-
let-
whoa, whoa,
And
whoa, 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 whoa,
she
whoa,
has
whoa,
even
whoa.
endorsed. She has said, hold on. She has said that if they feel like they need to endorse a gay marriage and sign off on it just to avoid from going to jail, then she will support them in that.
Well, see, that's good.
Okay, but Charles, tell me,
But
what
I
rule
still-
was not in place?
No, what I'm saying is the part of the gay marriage
that-
was
right.
not.
He's right about
was
that.
not in place.
Okay.
The Supreme Court had not made that rule when she got
took
the
off-
job.
right.
That's true.
Okay,
That is true.
but isn't there a general rule that you issue marriage licenses to people who come in to get married, legally get married? And does that rule say, oh, well, it's just these people? Or is it an all-encompassing
But he has a
rule?
point, because when she took office, that was not gay marriage. Right, gay marriage was not in place. You could
No,
not
but
get married in
marriage
Kentucky.
was, and now that gay marriage is legal, and that is a marriage.
So now you're telling her she got to change her beliefs to suit whatever these people or whoever chose for her to follow.
I'm saying that if she does not follow the guidelines that are set forth for her in her position, then she needs to move on to another job. That's what I'm saying.
Personally, I could care less who gets married.
Me too.
You can marry a goat if you want to marry a goat. I don't give a flip. You marry whoever you want to. But here's my one point on her side, is that the people of that state elected her.
Right.
They had to know who she was.
The straight people, and the gay people.
They all knew who she was. They elected her. She has office. So, let's just say Kansas decided they were going to legalize heroin. Now, I'm not a heroin user, and I don't want to be around her. I'm just going extreme.
Great excuse.
And I don't want to be around heroin users.
No different.
Then wouldn't I have to move or something? I mean, there's 50 states. It's not like I'm crossing the border from France to Germany. I could go work in another state, right? I don't have to live here. If they come up with some law, right? I mean, we got to be a little bit careful with states' rights, because you never know what state could say whatever.
Right. You know, they got marijuana. What's next?
What? Yeah.
Coke.
Heroin. I got a vein here somewhere. And we got a break here, right, too. The scene will be right back.
This past week, Christy and I interviewed some budding authors in our little author series that we like to call our author series, right?
Our community author series.
Our community author series. So I interviewed Kristen Stove all over at Mocha's.
And I interviewed Dana Bowman over at Ad Astra.
And they both have some excellent books. Soulbound was written by Kristen.
And Bottled was written by Dana. It's a fantastic personal story for Dana Bowman about her alcoholism while being a mother. It's really fantastic, and it throws in some humor. I can't wait for you to see it.
So check out our little interviews with the girls.
Welcome, Salina. It's Christy Mai, and I am here at Ad Astra, and I'm here with my dear friend, Dana Bowman. She has written an amazing book about addiction and recovery. It's called Bottle, A Mom's Early Guide to Recovery. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. It's an honor to be here.
So why a book about recovery?
Well, I'm in recovery for one, and when I got sober, it was right when my kids were little. I decided I was going to attempt sobriety while parenting 2 small children, which to me seems pretty crazy, and a couple of my mom friends were like, why? But at any rate, I did, and through that journey, I'm also a writer, and so I was writing some articles for some magazines, and they kept wanting me to write about recovery, and I kept trying to avoid it and get around it, but finally I just succumbed and started really kind of getting my work out there, and then realized that there are a lot of moms that really wanted to hear my story. So.
And not only is it a book about addiction and recovery, and it's a heavy topic, but you throw in some amazing, humorous,
Funny stories.
They're fantastic, Dana. I don't know how you did it. And then you end each chapter with a top 10 list with some productive, really great information for anybody struggling.
Practical help. My thing I found as I was looking back when I was trying to get sober and struggling with that, I really wanted to find literature to help me. And there's a lot of great books out there about people in recovery. There's some books about moms in recovery, but most of the time, what I was finding was either really dark and depressing, or it just didn't help. Like it told the story, but it never gave away, you know, here's some tools that could help you work it through. And so I decided to kind of pair my story with a how-to narrative. And so the top 10 lists, they're kind of funny, snarky, but they're also really helpful. And one is about traveling right after you get sober and how you deal with that, because it's always kind of shocking. You don't realize you're going to come up against these things. You're like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. And so I'm hoping the book will kind of help give some guidance to people that need a little extra push.
You know, out of all my summer reads, this and Amy Poehler's.
Yes, I just got that one too.
They're fantastic.
Yep.
So definitely get out there, Salina. You can purchase this book on Amazon. It's also the #1 for addiction and recovery on Amazon Prime. So for sure, get out there. It's a great price. It's a great read, and it's short chapters for moms who can only read 2 to 3 pages at a time. You can dog ear a chapter every maybe 2 minutes. It's fantastic.
I met up with Kristen Stovall at Mocha's today, and we talked about her new book, Soulbound. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Shawna.
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good. So tell me a little bit about this book you wrote.
Well, it's a fantasy. I mean, a fairy tale in a lot of ways. It has to do with love, loss, and finding who you really are. And then, just lots of fun and adventure and magic and I think good-looking guys, but
Ooh, good-looking guys. So the readers can kind of develop that on their own, or you have a good description of what they look like?
Oh, I describe what they look like because they're
nice.
in my head.
Good. So what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I'm a young widow. My husband killed himself a 1.5 years after we were married, and it was just really difficult to kind of find any sort of closure with something like that. And we didn't have any children, and so it really kind of helped me work through some of those issues and give that relationship a sense of legacy. So that was really helpful.
So how do your characters tie into that?
Well, the main character, the woman, Aislinn, she is actually a widow. And the concept is that when her husband died, they were soulmates, and so they were connected, and she could still feel his presence, but she needed to be able to tap into that without going crazy. And so it starts out there and then kind of goes off on a little adventure, but it really does deal with how you still feel the presence of someone after they're gone. And it pulled on a lot of those things, even though I didn't get like cool magical abilities with it. I just got lots of sad days, but inspiration anyway.
So tell me, who's your favorite character?
Ooh. I like them all in different ways. I have a particular, I have favorites that I like to write, and one of them would be the prince. It's a male character. I don't know why I like to write the male characters so much, but I do. And then of course, I like the heroine because in some ways she's sort of my avatar into this fantasy world, even though she's very much her own person, and there are people inspired by my friends, but they all become their own characters. But yeah, probably, I don't know, I think my favorite character to write is whichever one I'm putting through the most horrible thing at that moment.
So where can I buy Soulbound?
Well, on Amazon, you can get it. You can also go to the Facebook page and click the little Shop Now button, and then Ad Astra will have some there, and there will be books there during the signing as well.
Take a fantasy tour, a walk through the pages of Soulbound really soon on Amazon. We hope you enjoyed learning about the books. I know we enjoyed talking to the girls, and it was just such an interesting experience. I don't know if I could ever write a novel. That's a lot of words to have to deal with.
I just love the fact that it's women empowering women.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was just such a great plug for them, and I hope that they do well.
I do too. Go buy their books.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the scene. True story here, gang. So the other night, I am watching the Republican debate, right? Because I want to be an informed voter. And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching this thing, clicking on the TV. My family leaves the room because they're kind of sick of politics. So it's just me and it's my cat, right? And so I'm watching the debate, and I'm taking notes. I got my little pen, I got my little paper, and I'm writing stuff down. And after like 15 minutes, my cat comes up to me, taps me on the arm, looks me dead in the eye, and says, "Donald Trump is the Antichrist," and walks out the room.
Truth.
I kid you not. I kid you not, that happened. And I thought, well,
Word.
what was that about? I mean, how does my cat know? And so I'm figuring out, well, I can't vote for him because that's who he is. So I have to figure out who to vote for, right? So then I went to this website, isidewith.com, and they got a bunch of questions there, and you can out there in TV land and YouTube land go there, isidewith.com, and answer all these questions. It takes about, what, 10, maybe 15 minutes. We've all done it. And maybe a little longer? You're thinking maybe 20, 25?
You know, I was really into it, so I think it took me about 35 or 40 minutes to get through everything, because I expanded it all and wrote down my own thoughts. And
You're putting way too much thought into this.
I know.
It's just the President of the United States.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal. Just answer the questions and just go through. So anyway, I went through it, and turns out Donald Trump's nowhere on my list.
Oh.
But
Right.
were you scared?
You led with that, Donald Trump. I thought, what the hell?
Joe Biden.
Really?
He's not even running. So it was Joe Biden number 1, Barry Sanders number 2. And
Bernie
then
Sanders.
Bernie Sanders number 2, and then Hillary Clinton number 3. And
Nice.
I never really thought of myself
I can
as,
sit next to you now.
as a Democrat because I'm kind of fiscally conservative, but socially liberal. So I think that's kind of what skewed it a little bit. And Charles got completely different answers, as you might imagine.
what did you get, Charles?
Who'd you get, Charles?
Does anybody not know what party I'm for?
But who in the party?
But
who in the
did
party
you
was
get?
it?
Let me see what this.
Oh,
The
geez.
dude who dropped out? Oh, my goodness. Oh, dear.
I don't want to know.
What?
Bernie Sanders?
You're kidding me.
So
Does that surprise anybody though?
no. So apparently,
hurts my
Jeff
heart.
is as far as left as you can get, almost to socialism, and Charles is about as far as right.
I don't like
as
how you
can
throw
get.
around the word socialism. Because all Democrats are really socialists.
But Bernie's a little different than the rest.
No.
Bernie wants free college, free everything.
You know what? I'm gonna
but
put
who's
my
gonna pay
paper
for
away,
all of
'cause
that?
You guys are just like.
I still love you. Shawna, who came out on top for you?
Well, I hate to say it out loud because it terrifies me. Terrifies me.
Bernie Sanders?
No, Joe Biden.
Really?
Terrifies
Two
me.
Bidens.
Huh.
Biden in the house.
But see, I don't really
It won't
understand that.
happen,
There's
though.
no
He
won't run.
there's
It
no
won't happen.
perfect there's no perfect candidate out there for me. I mean, honestly, that was only Joe Biden by 73%. So he was maybe the one that I had more in common with issue-wise, but he still terrifies me. And Hillary Clinton terrifies me too.
And then who?
I'm Bernie Sanders,
Bernie Sanders?
all the
Yeah.
way. Yes. No.
No, he was my number 2.
He's for capitalism.
Yeah.
You know, that word gets thrown around.
Who's
and I
gonna
don't
pay for all the free stuff he keeps talking about?
Who's
That's all I
paying for
keep
the war?
saying.
The war
Who's
is
gonna pay for
expensive.
that?
If we get out of this war, all that money can go back to our own country.
Look, we need bombs to protect us. People are gonna try and come kill
No,
us.
ISIS will come over and just take over.
Right.
It don't matter.
I don't care.
I think you're more Lindsay.
I don't care if we have a Navy larger than the next 22 navies combined. Our Navy's not big enough.
You would rather that than everybody get health care and go to college and progress our own country.
I think what he's saying
Navy.
that
In the Navy.
that if we can't protect ourselves, none of that matters.
It don't. It
They're going
basically
to college
don't.
if they're coming across the border.
Yeah.
It don't.
I don't know. I think we need some political experts to give us some guidance.
We do.
So, in this next segment, we're going to be checking out some political experts and seeing what kind of guidance they give us.
That
We'll
sounds
be
good.
right
That
back.
sounds good.
So here we are. We are with James Blackwell, representing the Republican Party, and David Norlin, representing the Democratic Party. And the first thing I would like you guys to do is just give us a little overview of your party affiliation or not party affiliation, and kind of what your thoughts are on your party. Let's start with you, James.
I've been affiliated with the Republican Party for about 20 years, I guess. I served in the military, and now I'm a private business owner, small business owner in Salina. So I just feel that the Republican Party represents more of what the small business owner stands for and where we need to go with the country. As far as affiliate, I don't want to pretend to speak for everybody in the Republican Party. I just feel like with my position and my outspokenness of political issues, I try to stay informed. I try to engage myself with debate or with conversations with all parties. And I just feel like the Republican Party is more what represents me as a person and my background and where I'm at in business today.
Okay, David.
The Republican Party puts forth a doctrine of freedom, of absolute freedom. But the problem with the business, the part of that equation is that freedom has resulted in huge conglomerates that mean exactly the opposite of that for folks like James, and people are trying to work their way up in small businesses. Besides that, I find myself increasingly, in light of the kinds of issues raised in the presidential debate, Republican presidential debate, to be just at a loss to know how any of what's said there is relevant to most people. Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders, most recently as the most popular Democratic candidate, has been raising the issue of income inequality. And that inequality is the central issue in our society. Democrats are tackling that. Republicans have no clue about it.
Well,
apparently have no clue about it.
I love
that's
how
not
you just jumped into the issues, but my question was,
how did I become a Democrat?
How did you become a Democrat? And how you know, how is your party affiliation affecting you at this point?
I was a Republican for some time because I was a Kansan and because my parents ran a small grocery store in McCracken, Kansas. And so I followed that party affiliation. But then I saw the light, partly because of my academic background and willingness to study the issues. And again, I could see no way in which those Republican stances were addressing the real issues. And that's been the case for nearly the 20 years that James has talked about as well. So I've been a Democrat ever since then, active in the Democratic Party here. And there are ways in which the local party and the state party and even the national party don't address issues. And I think everybody's dissatisfaction is evident. But when it comes to principles, there's no question, hands down, which one is the better party.
So,
of the two major parties.
If a person declares Republican or Democrat and they decide that there are issues that they don't agree with, is it just horrible to vote opposite the party that you think that you're affiliated with? I mean, have you ever, either of you ever done that?
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, you know, I don't think it's just horrible. I mean, we're always going to have issues of the day. And I kind of, you know, I have mixed feelings on issues such as gay marriage and what most Republicans have. I don't think it's horrible, but I think that when you look at the overall, what represents what you believe in and where you're at, you know, I don't think it's horrible, but I don't think it typically happens. I mean, I just think that people tend to go with the majority who represents them most. Myself, I don't like to designate one issue and say, well, I'm going to vote for this candidate because of this one issue. You got to look at the overall picture, and that's where I'm at.
Do you agree with that?
I think that most voters with intelligence, and that's not all voters, by the way, but many Republicans, I don't know what percentage, are Republicans because there are more candidates in the primary and they feel like that gives them more choice. But we have in the presidential debates, prime example, because you were talking about that, you have a combination of voters voting out of either greed or gullibility. 130 families and their businesses contributed more than half of the Republican candidates' funds up to June when it was last counted. That tells you a lot about where money has taken us in this country.
So why do we have so many Republican candidates and not so many Democratic candidates? Is it because of funding?
No.
Why?
No, I don't think so. I think anytime you have an incumbent president who is one party or the other, then you've narrowed down that field. I think that party is typically going to choose a successor, such as Hillary or, at this point, Bernie. Bernie Sanders is, you know, he's come along as of late, but typically the impression was given that Hillary was a successor. I think it's great that we have a large number of any candidates, whether they're Republican or Democrat, and give us a choice. I mean, it gets so old to have one or two party line people that we have to choose from. I mean, at this point in this election, I think we're down to 15 Republican candidates that you can either support, and as that dwindles down, which it will in the future, but on the Democrat side, we're given a choice of two. We got the socialist Bernie Sanders, or we got the liar Hillary Clinton. I mean, the plain
well, actually, there are more than that. There's Martin O'Malley. There are several other Democratic candidates.
But those are the two
primary. The reason that there are more Republican candidates is that the money people in the United States want a Republican because they know that's what they need to keep control of. And so what you have in the Republican primary is a money primary. These people are not necessarily speaking to the people. They're speaking to the funders. And Trump, of course, sort of trumps everything because he's got his own money. Which is a whole other issue. But that's why you have all these candidates running, because they want to attract the funders that are going to underwrite their presidency.
Or it could be that we have all these candidates running because we have all these business people or people who work for a living that are tired of the status quo of socialism and giving to people that aren't employed, or giving, having our money redistributed, that we're at that point where we're tired of it. So now we're looking for those choices. We're looking for someone who speaks to us. And yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are speaking to us right now. So it will dwindle down, and we'll come down to 3 or 4 good candidates prior to the primary, and the Democrat Party will give us their 2.
I think I agree with James that there's a lot of dissatisfaction out there, and it comes down to some money issues, but it's not just money issues. The whole discussion here, really, that you guys were having was about fear. And what's a good response to that? Well, we almost have to laugh at it. In fact, if you look at the kind of debates that have been, laughter is really about the only answer, isn't it? Because if you didn't laugh at it, you'd be horrified by it.
If we don't have any Republican candidates, and the Republicans think we don't have any Democratic candidates,
we don't need any.
Okay, are we on the verge of a third-party situation here? Maybe the Trumpians type of candidate? Somebody who's just out there to basically shake things up, change the world, but maybe does have some foreign policy, does know a little bit about what they're doing as far as actually being able to be president. Is there somebody out there like that, or is there a party out there that's going to develop like that? It's
unlikely there'll be a third-party candidate because the procedural obstacles to getting that kind of a candidacy going are extreme. However, if you had a Trumpian funder, maybe even those could be overcome. But the question the American people and Salinans and Kansans have to ask themselves is how they can sort through this and find candidates who really will begin to address the issues. That simple.
Agree?
I don't think that we will have a third-party candidate. I think that it goes back to we have a two-party system, whether you like it or not. That's where it's at, and I believe that's why Donald Trump is running as a Republican. I mean, plain and simple, he's more of a Tea Party candidate, and Tea Party. The biggest difference I see and the biggest downfall of the Republicans is they have a problem endorsing that type of candidacy, whereas the Democrats, they'll endorse anybody. I mean, so I think it's going to be, which is good about the Republican Party. We're open to additional ideas. We don't have to toe that party line. So that's why we have 15, 16 candidates, whereas the other party has 2, or I guess, as he said, 3, but I guess the common person couldn't name all 3 of them. At this point, we could name 2 maybe.
There's one issue that has to be addressed, I think, in this discussion, and that is women's issues. And you can simplify it down to defund or defend Planned Parenthood. Women's reproductive rights are under attack in this country, primarily by Republican candidates. And unless that issue is addressed, that has to be one of the equations. And there's a whole lot of bigotry and misunderstanding around that issue, which probably could be another topic for your program.
It could be another topic for our program.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. Solidarity forever.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I think we know where these 2 stand. I think I'll just hang out here in the middle for a while. I want to thank you guys both for coming on and enlightening us about your party affiliation and giving us some ideas to think about. It's definitely going to be an interesting time, I think, in the election process.
Welcome back, Salina. Thank you so much for this show. I just want to give a huge shout out to David Norlin and James Blackwell. They were amazing.
Yes.
I'm so glad they're smarter than we are.
Yes.
And I want to give a big shout out to Kristen and Dana for our author series.
Yes, they were fantastic.
They were pretty great.
The
Email
highest.
address is thescene@salinatv.org. Say it.
thescene@salinatv.org.
One more time.
thescene@salinatv.org.
All right.
And you can also check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/thesceneofsaline.
Right.
Right.
Holla.
And you can catch our episodes on YouTube, right?
Yes, you
Yes.
can on YouTube, salinatv.org.
Check us out. Email us. We want to hear from you.
We want to know all Democratic, Republican opinions.
And Trumpian opinions too.
That's right. Or any opinions. We'll take
Trumpian?
anything.
We're a mess.
She said Republican.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
See you, Salina.
Yeah.
The excitement. What the?
She just spinning all over.
No, she tried to act like a whale.
I totally burped in the first segment. Did you smell it? And I went, excuse me.
I can't smell it over the patchouli.
You're wearing patchouli?
I am. How's my hair, Shawna?
Jeez,
Perfect.
help me, please,
Lovely.
somebody.
Darling.
Makeup. Diva alert.
At least she ain't pulled the hair out.
Oh my! Remember
yet.
that with this one?
Yeah.
The first season.
Yeah.
Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat.
Trumpian.
Welcome back, Salina, and I want to give a huge thank you to James Norlin and David Blackwell for being here.
Redo.
I think that's James
the
Blackwell and
opposite.
David Norlin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It happens to be old.
I'm so sorry.